Good evening, I'm Cathy Lewis, and here's what matters this week. There are big goals and then there are audacious goals, and Norfolk Mayor Paul Frame's goal to end homelessness in 10 years comes under the category of the latter. The mayor is lending the support of his office to programs that really work, among them 4 kids. Lisa Godley has the story of one family that's moving from homelessness to stability.
Kimberly Brown and 2-year-old Olivia really enjoy their time together. But it wasn't that long ago that Kim and her husband Victor and their 2 children didn't have a lot to smile about.
I'll tickle you.
They were homeless.
So it was very hard. And I'm like, I didn't even think I would ever be in this kind of situation.
But she was. The couple's landlord had raised their rent, forcing them to move in with Kim's mother. Then, just as they were settling in, her mother's landlord informed them that 2 families could not live in a 2-bedroom apartment. So once again, they had to pack up and go. Kim had to scramble to find a place to live, and to make the situation worse, she was 8 months pregnant.
I think I went through 3 different shelters. I was in Suffolk, in the Norfolk shelter, and then I went to the dwelling place. From the dwelling place, I had Olivia in dwelling place. I was 8-9 months pregnant when I moved there.
Some of the shelters would not allow couples to remain together, so she and Victor had to separate. While apart, he worried for her safety, and so did she.
Don't know where you're going to go the next day or what's going to happen the next day. I didn't feel safe. I wanted to have my own. I wasn't threatened. It was just like being around people, especially like with the downtown shelter that I was in. That one was like a lot of women, and most of them had lots of issues. And you had to sleep in a room with like 10 other people, and it's like on a bunk bed, and I just didn't feel safe.
Being homeless had also torn her family apart.
Well, during the time I had lost custody of Victor because of the homelessness, my sister had to have him for almost 1.5 years.
Each year, close to 6,800 children slip into homelessness here in Hampton Roads. That's about 3,000 families. Unfortunately, organizations like 4 Kids and the United Way can only help a small percentage of them. Kimberly Brown is glad she was able to get help. While living at Dwelling Place, she and her family were able to move into one of the transitional homes sponsored by 4 Kids, an organization committed to helping homeless families turn their situation around. Kim says the services offered have helped them reshape their finances.
We save money. We do budgets monthly. They help you if you have problems. Like with getting my son back, they helped me. They were in the courtroom with me. You have one-on-one case management meetings. Anything you need help with, they're here to help you. I mean, you see them every day on a daily basis.
What is the best weather to you?
The program has also given the Brown family hope for the future.
Is that Pooh Bear?
I want to build a house and just have everything to be perfect like I want it.
For What Matters, I'm Lisa Godley.
And we're happy to have with us Thaler McCormick, who's the executive director of 4 Kids, and Sandra Coleman, who was at one time homeless. Thanks to both of you for being with us tonight. What an amazing program, Thaler, and it sounds like now, as of the news of this week, that it really is becoming a regional program. You've just had facilities in Norfolk, and now you've just acquired one in Suffolk. I don't know whether acquire is quite the right terminology, but tell us what happened there.
That's right. The Center for Hope and New Beginnings has been operating in Suffolk. It was previously the Suffolk shelter, and essentially they have been going through a rough patch for several years, and their board was looking for a way to move the shelter forward, and they made the decision back in the spring to look for another organization to partner with, and they made the decision, approached us in the spring, that essentially they would close essentially they would shut down the Center for Hope and New Beginnings, and they gifted their assets to 4 kids, and we are now operating the shelter in Suffolk as of last week.
And that really does mirror the experience of the family we just saw, because they were homeless in one city and another and another.
Yes,
this is really the case for a lot of these families, isn't it?
Yeah, that's certainly what we tend to point out, is that while there are many geographic boundaries to serving the homeless in the region, and departments of human services certainly have requirements and boundaries to service, once a family's homeless, they have no city. So where they are homeless is where we try and serve them. And that tends to be the philosophy of most service providers among the region, is if a family is homeless, then we try and serve them. And that's their experience. When a family calls us, if we're full, we give them the name of every shelter provider in the region. And that's really how all the shelter providers are operating in the region, is, we're always referring them to everybody that's providing service.
And are you noticing more calls now with the economic downturn we've taken recently?
Absolutely.
What are you noticing?
All the providers are experiencing increase in requests for assistance. City of Norfolk, the highest spike we saw for the homeless hotline in Norfolk was a 41% spike in July.
Wow.
We're seeing spikes go up and down. We saw about a 45% spike a few months earlier in spring, but so the spikes are varying.
So you would anticipate heading into the holiday season with this tough economic news, you would anticipate that you would probably hear from some more people as well.
Interestingly enough, the holidays don't tend to be our highest need months.
Really? Huh.
Families are averse to having their other family members be homeless during the holidays. So
isn't that interesting?
Holidays tend to be a little bit lower.
So they'll take their relatives in during the holidays, but then maybe January just gets a little too much. And
yeah, but so our biggest spikes
really
have always been over the summer months. The summers are always our highest activity period.
Well, Sandra, I'm happy to have you with us tonight. Thank you for being here. Your story is a very interesting one. You were at one time homeless, and I think you said, so how is it that you came to lose your housing?
Well, basically, I couldn't afford it by myself.
You were in an apartment?
Yes. I went without lights, water. It got to the point, the only thing I could pay was the rent. Then it got to the point where I got sick and I couldn't afford anything. So that left me and my kids homeless.
And how many children?
2. And I slept in my car, for shelter. And if I had to take a bath or anything like that, I would go to a friend's house or a relative, just to keep, me and my kids clean or whatever. And then, my mother didn't know anything about it because I felt, I'm an adult and I needed to take care of this problem myself. And I didn't want to worry her because she was sickly and stuff. So,
Would she have taken you in?
I believe she would have, but I didn't want her, get to the point. I really didn't want her to know. And it was all about, it's a fear also. It's real scary out there, sleeping in your car and stuff, and your kids. I never separated from my kids. I always had my kids by my side. The only time, I would I would tell my mom, could you keep the kids, so they would have a stable, instead of, laying in the car.
So maybe once in a while you would take them to your mom's house to sort of a treat for them.
Yes, and when I was working, but when I got paid, it was like the treat was to go to a hotel room or something like that, so we could be comfortable and safe and, safe environment.
Just for one night?
Yes, for one night. That's all I could afford.
And what did you do work-wise?
I was a certified nurse's assistant, but it's still where I'm from, it's like a real rural area. They don't have any help like they do, here. When I was there, it was like you have to have a car, and there's no buses, no cabs, no nothing down there. So
how did you get connected to the 4 Kids program?
Well, basically, when I came back down here, I had went to the Heart team. And the Heart, basically, that's where I got the information for Haven House for Kids. I got the information from them. I went there one day. The next day, they called me and said they had a spot. So I went there in last year, October 2007. And from there, I went to transitional housing, which they helped me so much. For kids.
Let's talk about Haven House just for a second. We're going to come back to because this is an important point about what makes this program work so well, is you have very specific ages and stages of help. And when folks like Sandra come in they are really exhausted, aren't they? I mean, that's what I hear in her voice, is just the exhaustion of not knowing from night to night whether your kids are going to be at the grandmother's house or in the car with you, or maybe you got paid today so you can get a cheap hotel somewhere for them to lay their heads down. So they must be exhausted.
Yeah, I think that's really what we experience is families come in and we do a very detailed assessment to understand what the mom's needs. I use the word mother because 95% of our families are headed by single mothers. We do take fathers and we do take in-tech couples, as you saw. But typically, the parent is exhausted. So we're looking at what are all their needs, what are their health care needs, mental health care needs, do they have budget needs, legal needs, what's right. That comprehensive assessment that needs to get done within the first day of entry. And then what are the needs of the children? Same thing. What are the health care needs? We do full developmental assessments for 100% of the children that come in, for infants, toddlers, the works. And then we just start working through a plan. We have a very structured plan we do for the first week of entry, where they're working with the Department of Human Services. We're turning on the benefits they need to access other resources. We provide van transportation, we provide child care, and
just
a lot
to take
of times
the edge off, yeah.
The moms can do what they need to do. If they can't do what they need to do, then, as I'll typically say, we'll carry them through the process.
Yeah. But it's tough. I mean,
yeah,
it's great just to kind of get them connected with some level of service, which just takes the edge off a little bit, so they can start thinking about some of these other issues. So then after you've spent time at Haven House for Kids, what would happen next?
Well, then we have a wide variety of programs. At Haven House, they can stay for up to 4 months, which is really the period of time in which we've seen through working through this for years, tends to be an adequate period of time to access housing. Our moms, once they get that initial assessment, then they're looking for employment. We're helping them through that process. One of the difficult things about being in our program is once our moms or dads find employment, then they're turning in their income. Tough thing to do.
So they're bringing their income back to Haven House.
Yep.
To be distributed.
Sandra will tell you.
How was that, Sandra? How'd that work out for you?
It was kind of discouraging at first, but also I looked at it, okay, I was looking at the situation I was in financially. It would help me budget my money, spend it in the right way, So
what was the thing that you learned out of that process?
That program, it really helped me out as in mentally, physically, and everything, because they basically, the budgeting classes and different things like that.
You knew what you had?
Yeah, the parenting classes and all that. I mean, I knew what I had to, to move forward, and they helped me in that situation.
But that's a hard thing to turn over control of your paycheck.
Yes, it is. But we did it. But yes, it was at first. But I looked at another, a better way of it, by us turning it in, that's helping us out, because they're helping us,
right.
We're homeless.
So that helps you build those budgeting skills.
Exactly.
Build those skills that can help you at the next level.
Be more responsible, financially.
And we should note, this is not an easy process, because even if you have someone managing your paycheck, if you don't have a whole lot of pay coming in, it's still enormously difficult.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So you finished up at Haven House, and then Sandra went on from there to transitional housing?
Right, to transitional. And not everybody moves on to transitional. I mean, we have a limited number of units. The other thing we really focus on is the fact that we turn away hundreds, many years, we're turning away more than 1,000 families with over about 2,200 children each year due to lack of space. So we're very conscious of the fact that we need to move families through as quickly and efficiently as possible. So if a family doesn't need 4 months at Haven House, they won't stay 4 months. They'll move out faster. If a family doesn't need a year to 2 years in transitional housing, we'll move them through more quickly. In transitional housing, that's for families that need more time to stabilize. So we focus on a 3-month service plan. So a family works with staff and comes out with the goals they can accomplish over a 3-month period in transitional housing. They work together with staff, and once they accomplish that 3-month service plan, then they work out another 3-month service plan. And that's in our transitional housing programs.
And you're there now?
Yes.
And so when did you go into transitional housing?
I went in transitional housing like December the 20th. That was like my Christmas present. So I went there December the 20th. And I've been in there for a year.
Yeah.
Now.
So you've got another year to go, maybe.
Actually, I have put in for public housing, which.
And that's the goal, is as soon as
Yes.
she's ready to go, she can go, right?
Yeah, so as soon as I get my money for that, I can move.
When you say as soon as you get your money for that, what does that mean?
See, I gotta save up like paychecks because we gotta do a deposit, the first month's rent. So basically, that's what I gotta do, and I'm happy because I'm moving. It's like stepping stones. First, the shelter, the Haven House for kids, then Elizabeth Place again for kids, another company, and which you know, that's helped me a lot, you know, with jobs and everything, you know, just to move forward, the stepping stones to, you know, do better.
And you're in college now, right?
Yes, I'm in college.
Where are you going?
Bryan and Stratton College.
Okay, what are you studying?
I'm studying medical administrative assistant, and I graduated.
Which is a sort of a leg up from where you were before, right?
Yeah, it's more like you know, like in the emergency room.
Yes.
Yes, basically paperwork and stuff.
Okay, so if I know you and I go in the emergency room, will that get me there fast? No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. It's
would
always
be
good to
nice.
know people in the emergency room. That's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
So, so you'll graduate with this certificate, and then that will help you get a little more money,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. But I plan on going back to school again.
Yeah.
For also for IT, because there's a little bit more money in
Yeah,
IT. you
and
know.
the IT people are going to have all the money
Yeah,
at the end of
exactly.
time. I think that's what's going to happen. I
So
think they've got all the keys to knowledge, and they'll have everything by the time it's all
Yeah,
done.
but you know, I'll be graduating soon, so
Yeah.
I think I got like about 4 more semesters. I'll
Wow.
be finished. Yes.
And the kids are how old now?
My son is 19 and my daughter is 15. So.
And they're doing well?
Yes, my daughter, my son, he's about to go to Job Corps, then to the Navy, and my daughter, she's in ROTC at Maury High School. So.
Does she go in the service as well, perhaps?
Yes, she will. Yes,
Yeah?
she will.
That's a great opportunity
Yes,
for young kids. I
Yes,
bet.
she want to go to college. She want to be a pediatrician. So.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And these are things that you probably, I'm imagining, were not part of your thinking a couple of years ago.
No, it wasn't. It was.
It was day to day, huh?
Yes.
And you
yes.
work as well, we should know.
Yes, I work at Old Dominion University Bookstore.
So you have a very, it's a very full life between working, school, your
yes.
children who are older but still ones at home.
Yeah, but I make it work though. You know I have to set myself up so, you know, my schedule so everything can fit in perspective. I mean, it always don't work out,
Sure.
you know, but it's working pretty well.
What's been the hardest moment for you in this journey?
Basically, my kids not having a safe environment, you know, and just living from house to house, getting my money stolen, just being unsafe, basically. That was the hardest part.
Safety really seems to be a common theme when you talk to the families that are going through this process.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And when
Yeah.
you think about what you're able to provide, it sounds like what you're talking about is a very targeted program that's very specific to the needs of each individual family, because in Sandra's case, she'll be moving out before the 2 years, which is good for her. And yet, that sounds like a very intensive program from a staffing perspective. I mean, if you've got teams of people working with families, that has to be very staff intensive.
It is, and it does make the program fairly expensive to implement, and yet, you know, our mission is breaking the cycle of homelessness and poverty. Once you break that cycle, the money that is saved is extraordinary. The impact of homelessness on children is the most costly thing that we can have in a community, because they fail in school and then they fail in life. So that is far more expensive than the year we have invested in Sandra and her children, because now she's going to be a taxpayer. You know, her children are going to go in the armed forces. And what we have here is something that was so worth the investment we made.
Right.
So,
do you have hope for these issues being addressed regionally? By that I mean, you know, we go back to our founding part of our conversation, which is that folks who are homeless do not come to the border between Virginia Beach and Norfolk and say, "Oh, I dare not cross that." I mean, they don't do that, right? I mean,
No, they
so
don't.
so why are we addressing this as a regional issue?
There's certainly efforts. I mean, there is a regional task force on homelessness that is doing work, and they're trying to bring best practices to the region. So, and they've got a start on that. I am very excited about 4Kids making an official move across city lines. I mean, you know, we've been at it a week, and it's fascinating now to move from working with a single Department of Human Services. Now we're suddenly working with 5. And what that'll mean to us as we work to cross boundaries among the bureaucracies at work here that can make this so incredibly difficult for families and for meeting and crossing the barriers for solutions. So I have great hope that we can find a regional solution. I mean, we've got good starts in all cities. All of our cities in South Hampton Roads, actually, and in the peninsula, are now working and thinking about this. We just now need to tie all those efforts together.
And it sounds like there's a community message there that it has to do with the idea of investment. You know, it is expensive. It absolutely does take time, energy, and resources and staff and all the rest of it, which is a tough argument to make in this day and age until you look at what the payoff is on the other side of it. So congratulations on all of your success with the program. I mean, it's growing as much as it can grow, and certainly always dependent on good staff and folks like Sandra who are doing their part of that bargain too. Because it's a tough part of the bargain you have. There's very little rest for you in this. And when do you anticipate hearing on your housing? Your next level of housing?
My next December the 1st.
December the 1st.
Yes.
All right, good enough. And that's when we'll know whether it's coming through or not. Is that right?
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, best of success to you. I'm very happy to have met you, and I wish you continuing good luck and good work and the kind of dedication that you've demonstrated so far is going to be helpful for you. Yes. So good luck to you. Thaler McCormick, as you think about people like Sandra, one of the things we have to talk about is the fact that she is not getting rich at the ODU bookstore. And, you know, all of the education is important and it's helpful, but this is a long row to getting the kind of housing that is fully sustainable.
Yes. I mean, the gap between wages and housing costs is extraordinarily large. So until we really address that gap, we're really not going to be able to have meaningful solutions to homelessness. I mean, 4Kids can work very hard at this, but that really is the ultimate solution.
Yeah. Thaler McCormick, thanks for being with us, and thanks for all the things that you're doing here in Hampton Roads. And I'll be back in just a moment with a final thought. One of the things I like best about my neighborhood is that I get to see the hula hoop lady of Ward's Corner. Most days you'll find her in the Granby Street median, whipping that hula hoop around her hips and waving to passers-by. She is, in short, an institution, and people miss her when she's not there. Well, I was a long way from Granby Street last week when I met her in person. I was putting my freshly groomed dog in the car, and this tiny, intense woman suddenly appeared at my elbow, telling me about her dog of a similar breed. He never left my side, she said, and then she told me her story in that rapid-fire staccato of one who has repeated it often and knows it well. Her name is Pamela Brown, she said, and she was 17 years old at the top of her high school class with dreams of medical school when a car crash left her in a coma for a month. She emerged with short-term memory loss and a seizure disorder. Now, you don't have to talk with Pamela Brown long to figure out that she has brain damage, and she works hard to live a life of dignity. And so it was particularly undignified and devastating last month for Pamela Brown to be arrested, tasered, and jailed right in the Granby Street median. It started with a noise complaint. When police confiscated the radio that plays her hula hoop music, she tried to get it back. Police had one hand cuffed, and they wanted her to put both hands behind her back, which she can't do because of the surgical pins in her arms. She tried to tell officers she had her medical alert information in her back pocket, and she pointed to her medical alert necklace. but she, by this time, had become hard to understand because she was so very agitated. And before it was all over, the police videotape shows her being repeatedly tased, and she spent the weekend in jail. Wisely, the prosecutor has dropped the charges in this case, and so Pamela Brown and 60 of her friends and neighbors returned to Ward's Corner, all armed with hula hoops. This was nothing against the police, said the organizer of the event. It was to let Pamela know that she was accepted in the community, that she's a part of the community and has people that care about her and support her. Pamela Brown reminds us that everyone has a story, that there is a reason she stands in the median and hula hoops, that there is a reason that some people are homeless and hungry, and it's usually a story that is bigger than we see at first glance. So if you'd like to learn some of the stories of the homeless families in this community, you can log on to homesforkids.org, and there you'll find the stories of families like Sandra's working hard to live lives of dignity, and you may learn what you can do to help let them know, as Pamela Brown now knows, that they are part of the community and that people care. If you have thoughts about being homeless in Hampton Roads or anything else we have covered here, give us a call at 889-9437. Write to us at 5200 Hampton Boulevard, Norfolk 23505, or check out our website at whatmatters.tv. That's where you can subscribe to our weekly e-bit, which will let you know what we're working on for Friday's show. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next week for another look at what matters.